Hey folks, welcome to What's New, the Peter Larman Outdoors radio show. I'm your host, Peter Larman, and thank you for tuning in to us today. Man, did everyone catch the Bassmaster Classic this past weekend? I mean, what a tournament! And how many of you watched it on Bassmaster Live? I tell you, things sure have changed over the years. It's a pretty neat deal to watch what these anglers are doing on the water. It's like you're riding along with them. And one of the anglers that was on Bassmaster Live is our guest on the show this week. He was never outside of the top 5 all weekend, and I'm talking about the UV Tight Lines Buck Knives Skeeter Pro Bill Lowen. However, before we get to Bill, let's take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back right after this. Are you looking for quality fishing tackle from knowledgeable staff that use the products and have experience in fishing? And do you want a dependable tackle shop that carries all the latest in some of the fishing industry's best-known companies? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then Pro J Fishing Tackle in Scarborough, Ontario is that tackle shop. Jasper and the staff at Pro J Fishing Tackle will get you ready for walleye, bass, crappie, and yes, even ice fishing season. Pro J Fishing Tackle carries some of the popular brands like Shimano, Lew's, Daiwa, Megabass, Angler's Choice, Yamamoto, Jackal, Sunline, just to name a few. Make sure you drop in and check out all of their products at their store location at 3467 Shepherd Avenue East, Toronto, or give them a call at 416-913-8305 and check them out on Facebook. So if you're looking for a quality tackle with excellent customer service from knowledgeable staff, Pro J Fishing Tackle is where you need to shop before going out and catching that trophy of a lifetime. Hey folks, welcome back. I'm honored today to have on the show a gentleman that I met back in 2009 fishing the BASS Northern Opens, and that's Elite Series angler and 4th place finisher in this year's Bassmaster Classic, Skeeter Yamaha Pro Bill Lowen. Bill, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
Bill, first off, congratulations on a great finish this past weekend. I know it's not the win that you were looking for, but you still have to be proud with your finish and the momentum that you have going into that first Elite Series next week over in Palatka, Florida on the St. Johns River.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You always want to fish to win, but you know what? It's the Bassmaster Classic, a 4th place finish. You got to be happy with that, and I'm tickled to death with that. And like you said, the confidence that you carry over from that is definitely going to help going into the first event.
I know you guys are going to the St. Johns River. Would the two bodies of water fish similarly the same?
They'll probably be totally opposite. You know what I mean?
Right.
The body of water in Florida is full of grass and it's tidal, and fish are probably going to be spawning. So much different from Grand being rock and cold water and dirty water and no grass. So yeah, they're going to be totally opposite.
Cool. So basically, tell us how you prepared for the Classic, and then how you had to switch things up during the event.
Well, the lake's been off limits for us since, a couple months, since January 1st. So I'd been to Grand a lot. I had a lot of history there, so I didn't decide to go down there and practice before it went off limits. So when I got to Grand and seen the conditions that it was in, it was muddy and the water was cold, and I kind of grew up fishing cold, muddy water, so I was kind of felt right at home. Mm-hmm. And I got on a really good cranking bite that I thought I was going to catch them cranking. And as the week progressed and things got warmer and the water temperature warmed up, that cranking bite kind of went away. And I know it just wasn't for me, because a lot of the guys that were catching them cranking didn't catch them. Some of the guys still caught a few, but not like it was in practice. I mean, I was averaging 20 to 24 pounds every day of practice on a crankbait. And there was a couple little areas that I'd had some flipping bites in, on a jig and a tube, but nothing that even compared to the crankbait bite. And the first day of the event, I started out cranking, and, it wasn't working, and I was hitting some of the key little transition spots that I knew I should be able to get a bite on, and I just couldn't get a bite. And I thought to myself, this is changing fast. This is not the time to try to figure out where they went. So I went to them flipping fish, knowing that was a little bit deeper water, that should be a little more stable, and them fish should still be there. And that's actually kind of where I ended up spending the 3 days of the event. Was on them little areas where I decided to flip and catch them on our tight lines UV tube and our lure parts online flipping jig with the UV chunk on it, you know. So had it not been for them little transition areas that I found on that flipping deal, we might not be having this conversation right now.
So backing it up a little bit, when you said you were doing it was a crankbait bite, was it the last day of practice, of official practice, that you realized that things had changed, or was it actually during the tournament?
You know, the last day of practice, the cranking bite was still on. You know, I mean, the last day of practice, I would have had 5 that weighed close to 24 pounds cranking. So now it's like, man, this is really going to work. Well, from that Wednesday to that Friday is when things changed. And like I said, I felt it in my gut the first morning of the event that, hey, this is going away quickly. Mm-hmm. You better regroup and figure out what to do. And I was fortunate enough to be able to do that and make my other deal work out.
It's cool. And I know you did a thing on Facebook where you talked about the crankbait that you'd use and the style. If you wouldn't mind, let's elaborate on that. Just because I know there's a lot of guys out there now that are, especially down south, where you guys were, so much here up in Canada and even northern states or whatever. No one's ready to go softwater fishing just quite yet. But what was the deal with the crankbait that you were using? Would you elaborate on that a little bit?
Here's the deal with the crankbaits. And I use 3 typically all the time. And guys are always like, well, why do you use 3? Why can't you just use 1? For me, when the water is cold and dirty or has a little bit of color to it, depending on how much color it is, whether I consider it muddy, stained, or clear.
Okay.
I have 3 crankbaits that I use for each situation. The biggest important thing is that it's a flat-sided bait. You know what I mean? That it's not shaped like a square bill, it just has flat sides. And what that allows your crankbait to do is have a tighter wiggle. Square bills and things like that have a real wide wobble,
right.
And that's typically not what you want when the water's cold. So regardless of what you decide to use, whether it be handmade balsa or a plastic bait, you just want to make sure that it has flat sides, okay? And like I said, I use 3 baits, and I'll tell you exactly why I use them. I use one, which is called a Yamaha shaker, which is a flat-sided bait that's plastic, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Out of all 3 of those baits, that bait has the widest wobble, okay? And that would be the bait that I would reach for when the water is really dirty or has a lot of color to it. Okay?
Yep.
That would be the Yamaha shaker for that reason of the water being dirty. Okay? My second one would be a laser lure. It's a custom balsa bait that's made in Ohio, and it has what I call a medium wobble to it. Okay? So when that water's just got a little bit of stain to it, that's the one I reach for because it has less wobble than the Yamaha shaker. Okay? When that water starts approaching to be what I consider clear or not have any stain to it, I use a handmade balsa bait called a PH Custom Lures Skinny P, and that one has the tightest wiggle out of all of them. So when the water gets cleaner, you want less vibration, and that's why I choose them 3 crankbaits that I just talked about, because depending on watercolor, one of them 3 crankbaits is going to work. And as far as I'm concerned, early in the spring, this time of the year when the water's cold, a flat-sided bait is definitely your best option. I mean, up to all these other baits, a Shad Wrap was probably the best cold water crankbait ever designed. And still to this day, guys throw a Shad Wrap. And I just prefer the handmade balsa stuff and the Yamaha shaker over the Shad Wrap. But there's a lot of guys that like that Shad Wrap.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, it's still a flat-sided bait.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
So that's the key to cold weather. And then, as you said, the 3 that you described is based more on water clarity.
Absolutely. The water clarity determines which one of those 3 baits that I'm going to use.
Right. But as long as it's cold water, you're going to always go to a flat-sided crankbait.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
Awesome. Folks, it doesn't get any better than that. I mean, you've heard it right from the pro's mouth himself. I mean, there are some good tips right there. I tell you, it's hopefully you listeners out there will take advantage of what Bill's saying out there and put that to practice. So Bill, during the tournament or when you were practicing, and then you said you went from cranking to the flip and bite. You had to look for these other transition areas, and I know on Bassmaster Live you were looking for the different rock or the transition in the rock to the flatter rock or smaller rock and stuff like that to the P-stone. How did you determine where they were? Was it an electronic thing that you used, or was it just knowledge of the lake?
Well, I think it's a combination of everything. I'm still, even though I consider myself old school, I really am taking advantage of a lot of the new technology that we have to find things. I still look at a paper map every night when I'm in the room. I'm using Google Earth. I'm using Navionics charts. To kind of find the contours and things that I'm looking for. So when I get on the water, I'm not having to look so hard. Okay, but during practice, I could look at my Ray Marine unit, and I could look for anywhere that the contours would tighten up. And what I was looking for was anywhere that I could find those contours tighten up in the back of a pocket, in the back of a creek arm. And basically what that told me was that is the last deep water in that pocket or in that creek arm before the spawning flat. Okay? And what happens this time of the year is them fish stage up in them little spots in that deep water, waiting on that water temperature to warm up so they can ease up in there and spawn and do their thing. So I could, like I said, I could look at my unit and I could say, I can catch one right there. And in practice, I could run all over and do that very easily by fishing them little areas. Well, like I said, as the week progressed, that went away. And I had to concentrate on those little deeper places in the backs of those pockets that had, 4 to 6 foot of water right up against the rocks. And as you saw in all the footage and things like that, that's kind of exactly what I was keen on. Trying to catch those fish that were setting up to go shallow that quite hadn't made it yet. And that's kind of how we made it through the Classic.
Now, I noticed on as we were watching, on through Bassmaster Live, a lot of the fish that you caught were underneath those walkways that run from shore to the boat docks. Was that a key? Were the fish? Did you notice? Did that have anything? Was that a key factor in that, as well as the rocks and transitions, or was it just that just happened to be there at that time?
Well, it seemed like every good spot that I had like that was kind of behind those type areas. And I think a lot of that is because a lot of your anglers don't want to go in there and fight that. You know what I mean? They just don't want that inconvenience of having to pick cables up, and a lot of guys just want to go straight down the bank and go fishing. My thought's always been, let's throw our bait in places that most guys aren't. Okay, that's kind of how I've always been. That's how I've always, I pride myself in being a very good flipper, a very accurate caster, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Growing up as a kid, Denny Brower was always one of my heroes, and I was always intrigued at how well, he could pitch and put his bait in little holes and things like that, where most guys couldn't do it. So long time ago, I've made myself learn how to, skip and flip and pitch and put my bait in places that a lot of guys aren't, and that's contributed a lot to my success. And simply by making yourself think you're fishing in an area that maybe most guys aren't, your confidence goes ways up that you're fishing for fresh fish. You know what I mean? Fish that haven't been beat up on or abused. And I think that basically had a lot to do with it. I was fishing areas that most guys weren't.
Well, and you're right. I mean, again, we can only see from what we saw on Bassmaster Live. And like I remember, I believe it was on day 3, you had gone in between 2 docks. And I think, there goes some gel coat, I believe you said. And then all of a sudden you ended up catching one in there, which was really cool. And then the other day, or the other time, I think before you caught your other big one, you were battling with cables. You were moving the cable. You actually went to the back, lifted up the cable over your power poles and stuff like that. You're right. It was a lot of work, but as you mentioned, the reward outweighed the effort to get back there.
And you can use that example of when I squeezed my boat in between them 2 docks. I had not done that. I had not made that cast for the first 2 days of the event. I went by it every day, and I thought, you know what? This boat is not going to fit in there.
Right.
You know, and I'm like, you know what? Third day Bassmaster Classic, let's try it. And that boat went in there, and that was probably the first accurate cast that had ever been thrown in there of the week. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And it was my first pitch in there. I pitch it in there, I go to lift up on it, she's already swimming out with it, and I catch her. So that's a prime example of fishing for a fish that probably hadn't seen a bait all week.
We always hear that, but we're always afraid to actually go do it.
Right.
Right? It's... I can't remember. It was a quote from someone, and they said, I'm going to throw it into there, and I'll worry about getting him out, but I got to catch him first.
Right, that was Alton Jones.
Yes, I believe that's who it was. And he says, I'm not worried about, getting in there. I'm going to get in there, but I got to make sure I can catch him first. So there's, right. and you demonstrated that perfectly there by, as you said, squeezing your boat in between those two docks and then actually landing that fish. And you're right too. The other aspect of it is the bad side of fishing that way is you losing two keepers on day one or on day three. You lost at the very beginning because you were caught on the cable. I guess your line got caught on the cable.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you're right. There's pros and cons to both, but as Alton said, I got to catch him, and I'll worry about getting him out of there afterwards. And
right, absolutely.
And you demonstrated that perfectly. Bill, we have to take a quick commercial break here and pay a few bills, but when we return, can you tell our listeners some of the new products that are coming out this year that are going to help you on the Bassmaster Elite Series?
Absolutely.
Folks, you're listening to What's New, the Peter Larman Outdoors radio show on WRVO Radio Network. Livingston Lures. Livingston Lures is committed to bringing fishermen everywhere innovative, technologically advanced lures designed to flat-out catch fish in fresh and salt water. With an exciting new line of crankbaits, lipless crankbaits, topwater baits, jerk baits, and wake baits, featuring a unique sound and vibration technology. Livingston Lures is set to make some real noise across the fishing industry. Pro J Fishing Tackle in Scarborough, Ontario carries the latest and best in fishing tackle. Products from Shimano, Lew's, Angler's Choice, Megabass, Daiwa, Yamamoto, and new for 2016, Enigma rods. The rods that BASS Elite Angler of the Year Aaron Martins uses. Jasper and his friendly and knowledgeable staff at Pro J Fishing Tackle will help you get the right tackle to help you catch that trophy of a lifetime. 3467 Shepherd Avenue East, Toronto. At www.projfishing.com. Welcome back. If you're just tuning into us, we're talking to Bassmaster Elite Series Buck Knives Pro Bill Lowen. Bill, before the break, I asked you if you tell our listeners what's new, the products that you'll be using for the upcoming 2016 Elite Series.
That's a good question. I mean, let's face it, there's always new products, there's always new things in the industry. So yeah, I mean, when we talk about stuff like this, the sky's kind of the limit. But I think a couple things that kind of stand out to me is that I'm going to be using, going to be helping me out is for those of you that aren't familiar with the Tight Lines UV products, remember the two of the baits I used in the Bassmaster Classic, actually the baits that got me through it was my 4-inch Bill Lowen flipping tube in black and blue and our Tight Lines UV bubble crawl chunk. Them are not new products, but why I'm bringing this up is because a lot of guys aren't familiar with what Tight Lines UV is. And basically what Tight Lines UV is that we incorporate a second base color into the soft plastic bait. Okay, so even though the bait's black and blue or black neon or green pumpkin, it has a second base color in it that's UV. So when you hit those baits with the black light, you can see that secondary color that's in that soft plastic. Okay. That was designed on the basis that all wildlife can detect that UV spectrum of color, whether it be whitetail or waterfowl or anything like that. So the fish being able to detect that UV color, which you and I can't because we only have 3 cones in our eyes and wildlife have 4 to detect that color. Mm-hmm. We incorporate that into the soft plastic so that in theory, the fish can see the bait better. They can find it better. Okay. So like I said, we've incorporated that into the soft plastic. But new for us this year, we have a series of baits called the Whisker series. Okay. And basically what that is a soft plastic crawl, soft plastic beavers, and things like that we've incorporated skirt material into the body. Okay, so basically you have a hybrid soft plastic that basically represents a jig, but is still small and compact in that soft plastic profile. So that would be one of the baits that I would say, hey, this is new. Y'all should check it out because it's definitely new and exciting, and I know that we can't keep them on the shelves. They're flying off. Everybody that sees them loves them. People are catching a lot of fish on them. So that would be one that I would recommend for sure. The other thing that kind of stands out to me would be a lot of the new luge fishing reels that are coming out. You know, the new magnesiums, the Team Luge Lights, the new Tournament Pros. Reels that are, as far as I'm concerned, for the price, top quality. There's no way you're going to be able to find anything better than the new luge stuff that's coming out. So if I had to pick two products that stand out to me, then would be the two that I would say, if you haven't checked them out yet, it'd be well worth it for you to check it out.
That's it's really cool that you talked about the Tight Lines UV baits, because I think a lot of people don't know the product. They see you guys with your boat wraps and stuff like that, and you guys are sponsored by them, and thank you for telling us actually what that bait is, actually why it makes it so different as opposed to a regular flipping tube or a craw or whatever the case may be.
Right. Well, here's what I kind of, when I tell people this, they kind of, a light bulb goes off in their head. Chartreuses and fluorescent oranges are in that UV spectrum of color. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
We use a different frequency of UV light or UV color in our bait, but it's kind of the same principle as chartreuses and fluorescent oranges. It's like, we always want chartreuses or oranges on our crankbaits or in our spinner baits, and we've done that for years for the simple reason that the fish can see that color better because it's in that spectrum of UV.
Okay.
And like I said, all we've done is incorporated that into our soft plastics.
And right, and when you explain it that way, it makes perfect sense.
Absolutely. So you're already basically kind of using it. Ours is already just at a different frequency.
Right, and people don't realize why they're using it. They just
absolutely.
They just say, "Oh, I know under stained water or whatever, I got to use chartreuse or an orange, or we even get the dipping dyes to dip our baits with that." But now that you said that, it actually makes it's people now can have a better understanding as to why we actually do that, as opposed to just say, well, that's what Bill does, so I'm going to do the same thing, or that's what Kevin does, so he's catching fish, so I might as well do it too. The thing is now we know why, and I think our listeners can, if they're really paying attention, can put that forward and use that to their advantage as well, because now there's an understanding.
Right.
So thank you very much for sharing that with us. So Bill, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us. I know you just got back from Tulsa, and you're getting some stuff taken care of right now, and then you're ready to hit the road again to head down to Palatka, Florida, for the first stop on the Bassmaster Elite Series schedule.
I just wanted to say that the schedule's tight this year, and I have nothing in my boat right now that is ready to go fishing in Florida, so got to get home, got to get everything switched out, and head that way. So, yeah, it's lots of time on the road, and not a lot of time for rest.
No, I guess not, eh? Good luck with that event. Good luck with the rest of the events on the tour, on the series this year. Again, congratulations on that great finish. From all of us here, we want to wish you the best of luck, and God bless you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, and I really enjoyed being on the show.
This episode was brought to you by George's Marine and Sports, making fun a reality. Lew's, building innovative products that are faster, lighter, and stronger. Livingston Lures, the difference is clear. And Pro J Fishing Tackle, www.projfishing.com. Guys, take a kid fishing. They are the future of our sport, and practice, catch, and release. But remember what I always say, work hard, but fish harder. I'm your host, Peter Lerman, and thank you for tuning in to What's New, the Peter Lerman Outdoors radio show on WRVO Radio Network. And Lord willing, we will talk to you again next week as we bring you What's New. Thanks for listening.